It's Wednesday, and you all know what that means. It's time for another episode of the Life in the Movies podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Ryan Cam. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This week, we're going to keep things a little shorter than normal. I found a very interesting article that I wanted to unpack with Jacob. It's the 25 best Christmas movies that aren't technically Christmas movies. So we're going to react to that and see if these movies are actually Christmas movies, if we have actually seen them. But first, I've got to introduce my co-host and the birthday boy, Jacob Martin. Today, we are recording this on Monday, December 12th, which is Jacob Martin's 27th birthday. So happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you, Ryan. Can't believe I'm 27. It's always hard to believe every time I have a birthday how old I currently am, but it's always a blessing to have another year of life. And thank you to all who have given me love and support during this time. And thank you again, Ryan, for having me on your channel for another episode.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to thank you, Jacob, for being on my channel this past Saturday for the first ever Life in the Movies watch along, where we watched National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation together. And I had the time of my life doing that. And I would like to do that again going forward. So thank you so much.
Yep, anytime.
Yeah, So, like I said, just going to keep this a pretty shorter episode than normal, just talking about this article that I found online from the website called yardbarker.com called the 25 best Christmas movies that aren't technically Christmas movies. And there is a good chance that we haven't seen all of these. I know I haven't seen all of these, but I think it would be fun because this list definitely looks interesting. So we're going to be unpacking that. And Jacob, I don't know about you, but I am ready.
Yep, I'm ready too.
All right, so starting off the list is The Thin Man. The first edition of The Thin Man, which was such a hit that it led to 5 sequels, was A Christmas Story. The plot gets started when Nick and Nora Charles leave San Francisco to spend Christmas in New York, where Nick's convinced to come out of retirement and find his old missing client. Jacob, have you heard of this one? Because I've never heard of this one.
I have heard of this film. I know back when I was watching TCM regularly, they would play this movie a lot, but I've never seen it, so I can't vouch whether it is a Christmas movie or not.
Yeah, neither can I, but the movie starred William Powell, Myrna Loy, and Maureen O'Sullivan, and was directed by W.S. Van Dyke. So this movie was released all the way in 1934. So this is a very, very, very old movie, and so can't really say, as neither of us have seen the movie, but must be about a man that is very thin. Well, next up on the list is You've Got Mail, and I've actually covered, I want to say, the original version of this called The Shop Around the Corner. What says Christmas more than shopping for gifts, specifically at Fox Books, a giant bookstore that's slowly crushing a shop around the corner under its corporate heel, as in You've Got Mail. So, Jacob, have you seen this one?
I actually watched You've Got Mail for the first time earlier this year. I did a live collab on my channel with Rachel Wagner, your friend, and we had a great discussion talking about this movie. It's one of her favorite movies, and I watched it for the first time. I totally forgot that there were Christmas elements in You've Got Mail until you brought it up. I know the original film, The Shop Around the Corner, I think is more so a Christmas movie because of its wintry setting, but I think there's only like one Christmas scene and You Got Mail, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, it's a great movie that can be watched year round.
Yeah, and like I said, I reviewed The Shop Around the Corner as part of Chris Mania, so that review is currently on the channel now, but I have not seen You've Got Mail. Honestly, romance movies are kind of a blind spot for me, and I know I should work on that, and I will going forward. But next up, and this is might be a bit of a strange one, but Jacob, I know you and I have both indeed seen this one, The Apartment, the movie that got Billy Wilder a Best Picture, and it got, I believe, Jack Lemmon an Oscar for Best Actor. So we've both seen this one, and I think we both really liked it. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah, I did really like this one.
Oh, you did not.
No, I really liked it.
Oh, what is wrong with my hearing tonight? Yeah, but
No,
yeah, according to the article, Jack Lemmon tries to climb the
no,
corporate
it's a
ladder by
really good
allowing
movie.
executives at his company to use his apartment for trysts. I think that might have been a spelling error. But then it all falls apart after the company Christmas party when his work crush attempts suicide and ends up passed out in his bed. So, would you consider this among your favorite Billy Wilder movies? I think my favorite, and it's probably cliche, but I would consider Some Like It Hot my favorite.
Yeah, Some Like It Hot is a great movie. My favorite is actually Sunset Boulevard. I think that is a great film noir type story, and it was way ahead of its time as far as like showing like the dark underbelly of Hollywood and how people operate, some of like the shady practices. But The Apartment's in my top 10. It's still a great movie. I love the dialogue, and Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine are fantastic together. Again, it's like You've Got Mail. I just don't think of this as a Christmas movie, even though there's like one Christmas scene in it. But it's interesting thinking about it that way, though.
Yeah, definitely. And next up on the list is Iron Man 3. And this was directed by Shane Black. And honestly, I think this movie has good ideas. As the MCU has grown and expanded, I think I've softened my stance a little bit on this one. The ending, the big twist in the ending, I hate. I cannot stand this twist. And I know that there are people who really like Iron Man 3, and I'm not going to try and dissuade them from it. But I know for me personally, I cannot stand the twist in this. They basically turned the Mandarin, one of the biggest Iron Man villains, into just a puppet for yet another dude in a suit. I mean, Aldrich Killian. But all of Iron Man's villains in the MCU are basically dudes in suits. Obadiah Stane in number one, Justin Hammer in number two, and Aldrich Killian in number three. And they all take center stage over the more interesting villains. For example, in Iron Man 2, it was supposed to be Whiplash, but no, it was just Justin Hammer. So I could talk about that all day, but Iron Man 3 has its good moments, and it has one of the best scenes in any Iron Man movie, on the one on the plane. But the twist just kills it for me. Thank God for Shang-Chi, because that movie just completely is like just completely retcons and makes fun of that whole thing.
Yeah, I definitely get where you're coming from. I know so many people who hate Iron Man 3 for the twist alone, but I've never read a single comic in my life. So when I first saw Iron Man 3 and we got to that twist, I actually thought it was really funny. I don't know if it improved the story anything. The Killian character is pretty bland in my opinion, but I still thought it was a funny twist. And it doesn't upset me that much considering we got the real Mandarin in Shang-Chi. And the fact that we have the real character who was Shang-Chi's father and was a formidable threat in that movie. I don't think the criticisms against Iron Man 3 are as relevant anymore. You can just go through the entire MCU and still get a good Mandarin story. But that criticism aside, I think this is a fun movie. I think it gets far more hate than it has any credit for. And yeah, I can definitely see how this can be seen as a Christmas movie, as Christmas is in the backdrop throughout the entire film. And if you're familiar with Shane Black's work, whether the stuff he's written or the stuff he's directed, he's a big fan of Christmas, and Christmas is usually the setting in all his movies.
That is for sure. And I could talk about Shane Black all day because I just have never seen the appeal. And I've never seen Lethal Weapon, so please don't come at me. But I've never seen the appeal. I've seen Iron Man 3, I've seen The Nice Guys, which everyone just falls over themselves wanting a sequel for it. And I'm just sitting there like, this isn't even the best Russell Crowe movie, and it isn't even the best Ryan Gosling movie. What are we doing here? And of course, The Predator is just trash, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother time. Well, next up on the list is LA Confidential. This is another movie that I have seen. I like it, but it's one of those movies that I've just never understood why people love it so much. It's like, I don't know, maybe it's because it takes place in the 50s and we all like that aesthetic. I mean, I like that aesthetic too, but having seen the movie precisely once, I just have never understood why people love it so much.
Yeah, I've actually never seen this one, so I can't comment on whether it's worth the hype or not. Isn't Russell Crowe in that movie?
He is, along with Kevin Spacey, but let's gloss over that one. And probably and Guy Pearce is also in this one as well, and he's predictably really good. But again, it just, I don't know. It's one of those movies where it's like it looks great, the dialogue is great, but I'm just like, it's fine. I've just never thought about it more than that. But maybe as
Would
I
you
get
consider it a
older,
Christmas movie?
according to this list, it is one of the inciting incidents of LA Confidential comes with Bloody Christmas when drunk cops beat up a bunch of prisoners during a drunken Christmas party. So that is the possession. So that is the reason for it being on here. Well, next up is 3 Days at the Condor, and this is a movie that stars Robert Redford and Faye Dunaway. Christmas is all over the Robert Redford, Faye Dunaway paranoid thriller, with carols on the soundtrack and Christmas decorations all around. So, have you even heard of this one? I had never heard of this one.
I've heard of the film, but I've never seen it. I've heard it's one of the better thrillers that came out in the '70s, and I think, from what I understand, it's one of Robert Redford's best performances.
That's what I've always heard.
Yeah, but again, I haven't seen it, and I can't vouch on whether it's a Christmas movie or not.
Yeah, well, next up, and this is probably the most well-known, divisive, and well debated one around this time, is Die Hard. Now, I always fall into the camp that it absolutely is a Christmas movie. I mean, it takes place on Christmas Eve. It takes place at a Christmas party. There's decorations everywhere. So it to me it is. But I mean, even no matter what side of the fence you fall on, I think we all can agree it's one of the best action movies ever made.
Yep, I definitely agree with everything you just said. It's a fantastic action movie, and I also believe it's a Christmas movie as well. Not just for the things you mentioned, but also for the fact that the movie opens with Christmas in Hollis, Queens by Run DMC, and the movie closes with Let It Snow. So it has a good Christmas fueled soundtrack throughout the course of the movie that opens and bookends the film.
Yeah, that is an excellent Christmas song. Shout out to Run DMC. Well, next up is The Long Kiss Goodnight. I believe this is another Shane Black film. I may be wrong on that, but Gina Davis plays an amnesiac housewife in The Long Kiss Goodnight who discovers she's actually a CIA assassin after getting into a car accident at Christmas time. In the movie's multiple concussions reverse amnesia instead of giving you CTE. So I had heard of this one, but I've just straight up never seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen this movie either. All I knew about it is it was written by Shane Black, and I think Samuel L. Jackson starred in it. And I think he recently said in an interview this is like one of the top three movies he's ever starred in his life. Uh, him saying that makes me more intrigued to check it out eventually.
Yeah, I mean, considering that Samuel L. Jackson has been in just a ton of movies, that really carries a lot of weight. So I think I'll have to finally bite the bullet and watch it for myself. Well, next
Mhm.
up, and this is probably one of the more famous is it or isn't it ones, is Gremlins. And I have never seen Gremlins. The DVD is back there somewhere, and I will cover it for Chris Mania one day. I've never seen it. But Jacob, I imagine you've seen it.
Yes, I have seen it quite a few times. It was probably one of my gateways into the horror genre in retrospect, and I do really like the movie. I do consider it a Christmas movie because Christmas is in the backdrop throughout the entire film. And the film is pretty much kind of a spoof on like the commercialization of Christmas, and even the town in the film Kingston Falls is a spoof on Bedford Falls, the town, and It's a Wonderful Life. And there's like a character who's pretty much a parody of Mr. Potter and everything like that. So there's a lot in there, but it's also a great horror film and a brilliant dark comedy at the same time. I love the animatronic work. It's a fun revisit to watch every couple of years. Martin House.
Yeah, shout out to Joe Dante. He's made some fantastic movies, and I think this is the one that he's probably the most known for. But check out The Howling if you haven't. It's really good.
Yeah, another one I recommend is The Burbs, which also came out in the 80s, along with the one with a similar premise, Small Soldiers, in the 90s, which is like Gremlins meets Toy Story.
Interesting. I've always heard of Small Soldiers. I've never seen it. Well,
Yeah, it's a good one.
next up is Meet Me in St. Louis, which I have covered as part of Chris Mania. And you know, I said in my review that there is, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas was incepted from this movie, so I think it definitely counts as a Christmas movie. But honestly, you could honestly watch it as a bit of a Halloween movie too, if you really wanted to. There's a specific section dedicated to Halloween. So I don't know. I've always felt it was a bit weird, but I mean, Judy Garland's really good in the movie, even though it was along her downward spiral around this time, which is very unfortunate, but she was still good. And overall, I like it, but I don't love it.
Yeah, I only saw this once, and to me, the film was just okay at best. Like, the best elements of this movie are Judy Garland and the song she sings, particularly Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. But it's never one I've felt the urge to revisit. And the whole thing with the Christmas movie, it's only in like the final act of the movie, which is a bit odd to me. And yeah, you also there is a Halloween segment in there as well. So you could, I guess it's kind of like the Nightmare Before Christmas, where it's technically a Halloween movie and a Christmas movie.
Yeah, and if you really think about it, the Christmas stuff in Mimi in St. Louis is kind of associated with a bad time for the Smith family, if you really think about it, because like Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas is kind of a sad song, and the youngest daughter, after the song, runs outside and just beats up on these poor snowmen because they've just revealed they have to move to New York. And it's a whole like very sad affair. And I'm just sitting there like, um, so I don't know. It's weird flex. That's all I will say. It is a weird flex.
Yeah, another interesting thing too. There was another movie that came out around this time. A lot of people associate it as a Christmas film. I don't know if it's on the list or not. But Bing Crosby starred in a film called Holiday Inn, and that's where White Christmas originally came from. And it's seen as a Christmas classic. But if you look at the premise, Bing Crosby opens this inn, which is only open on all the holidays of the year. So there's like an Easter segment in this movie. There's like a President's Day segment, and there's like a Fourth of July segment and a Thanksgiving segment, all in the same movie. So that's like probably the most holiday movie you could ever watch because you can watch it during any time of year and get something out of it.
Yes, and it actually is on the list. It's I don't know where it is placed on the list, but I know it is on the list. And there's parts of that movie that definitely have not aged well, specifically the blackface.
Oh,
But the movie is good. I do recommend White Christmas though over that one if you're looking for a Bing Crosby Christmas movie. White Christmas is your hookup. Well, next up is Edward Scissorhands, and honestly, this is a Tim Burton movie I've never seen. I've heard nothing but good things, and I've just never seen it.
wow, I was not expecting to hear that. But yeah, I love Edward Scissorhands. It's actually my favorite Tim Burton movie. Yeah, Christmas is in the third act of the movie. It's like where the big climax of the story is. Probably the most famous scene in Edward Scissorhands is where Edward is designing ice sculptures, and this town has never really seen snow before. And you see Winona Ryder's character really experience that for the first time with his ice sculptures. And there's a scene where she's going around going, ooh, oh, I've seen the snow for the first time. It's easy to make fun of, but it's still a really awesome scene and a beautiful Danny Elfman score along with it.
Yeah, and I really do have to get on the ball and see that eventually because you'd be surprised at the Tim Burton movies I've never seen. Well, next up on the list is Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. This is another Shane Black movie, and I think we could technically call this the return of Robert Downey Jr. because this movie was released in 2007, I believe, and the next year he was in Iron Man. So this was the movie before the comeback, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one. I just know it by name, the director, and I knew this was one of Robert Downey Jr.'s like first comeback movies. It's one that's been on my radar for so long, but I've just never gotten around to seeing it.
Yeah, right. Well, next up is Babe, and again, I've never seen this one. All I know is that classic quote from James Cromwell of "That'll do, pig. That'll do." But that's all I know about it.
Wow. Yeah, I have seen Babe. It is probably one of the best family films out there. Talking movies because instead of them doing like the overblown CGI route where it's so where a lot of these movies you can tell that they're not real animals on screen. Here they mainly do real animals and animatronics, and it's a lot more convincing and tangible that way when you see the real animals on screen and some of the puppetry work that's used. It's such a great story. Babe is such an endearing character. I mean, James Cromwell is great in this movie. I totally forgot that this could be classified as a Christmas movie because there's only like one Christmas scene in the movie, but it is a great movie, and I do recommend this one, Ryan, along with Edward Scissorhands.
And if my memory serves me right, this movie was directed by, of all people, George Miller, who not
Yeah,
only directed all the Mad Max movies, but also like these insane post-apocalyptic action thrillers. He's also directed Babe, which is nothing but a family film.
yeah.
So,
I think he just produced the first one, but I know he directed the sequel, Babe Pig in the City.
oh yeah, you're right. That does sound about right. But even still, having any involvement in those Babe movies just really just doesn't compute with me, but it did happen. And he also directed Happy Feet.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was my introduction to George Miller was that bizarre tap dancing penguin environmental allegory movie, which still baffles me what that movie was about, and I never really got the hype for it.
Yeah, right. Well, the next entry is Holiday Inn, and we have discussed that already. Hasn't aged the best, but I mean, it's Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye, so they're, of course, going to be fantastic in it.
Actually, Holiday Inn was Bing Crosby and Fred Astaire.
Oh, yeah,
Danny
you're right.
Kaye was White.
My brain was thinking of White Christmas there, but I mean, Bing
Oh, we
Crosby.
saw Christmas Vacation. Chevy Chase said the one line, so it's fresh in our minds.
Yeah, but even still, I mean, it's Bing Crosby and Fred Astaire. Those two were once in a lifetime talents. So there that is. And next up, and this is a movie that Jacob Collins is hunting me down to debate on whether this is indeed a Christmas movie or not. I don't know how I feel about that. I guess we'll have to enter the arena to discuss it, but Batman Returns.
Yeah, I would consider that a Christmas movie because Christmas is the entire aesthetic of the entire movie. And it's probably one of the best aesthetics. I think as far as Christmas goes in comic book movies, I love Tim Burton's atmosphere and the architecture of Gotham City in that movie mixed with the Christmas aesthetic.
I mean, I guess there is the scene where Batman and Catwoman kiss under the mistletoe, so there is that.
Yeah, and there's a tree lighting ceremony that opens the movie, and they have like I think a beauty contest at one point, and like the main woman gets abducted, and Batman has to uh, rescue her pretty much.
Yeah, well, next up is the 1994 version of Little Women, directed by Gillian Armstrong and starring Susan Sarandon, Winona Ryder, Kirsten Dunst, and a young baby-face-looking Christian Bale. Like, I've never seen this, but seeing pictures of him, I'm just like, wow, this is definitely 6 years before American Psycho. That's for sure. Have you seen this one?
No, I have not seen this version of Little Women. The only one I've seen is the recent one from 2019, directed by Greta Gerwig. I can comment on that one. There are some Christmas scenes in that film. I'm pretty sure they're the same scenes in the other versions, depending on how faithful, I guess, the adaptations are. But coming from someone who did not have any anticipation to see Little Women, it's not a story that I like resonate with by any means. The Greta Gerwig one is fantastic. The cast in that movie, I was invested in all the characters and their journeys. It's a great family story of sisterhood, and I was even emotionally connected with some of the characters. And I think it's all because of the writing and direction and how wonderful of a talent that Greta Gerwig is.
Yeah, and then I haven't seen any version of Little Women. It's romance again, so I that's a definite blind spot for me. I know how to talk, so I'll definitely have to check that out eventually. Well, next up is the original version of Steel Magnolias, another romance movie that I've never seen.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's an entertaining movie. I honestly don't remember any of the Christmas scenes in that movie. That's the one with Dolly Parton's in that, and Shirley MacLaine, and I think Julia Roberts is in that one too. It's pretty enjoyable. There's a lot of comedic aspects in like the first half of the movie, and then it takes the serious in the second half and it turned into a sad tragedy by the end. It's a pretty good little tearjerker when you get to it, and the acting is terrific, especially from Sally Field. It's not a movie I'll rewatch anytime soon, but it's still a pretty good movie if you're a fan of any of these actresses.
Julia Roberts is in that one, right?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, I know I've heard of this one somewhere. I just, like I said, I've never seen it. Next up on the list, and this is the one that I just do not agree with at all. The Sound of Music.
I don't remember anything Christmassy about the Sound of Music. I
The
don't. I don't get that one either.
the reasoning for this one being on the list, but a lot of the movie has elements of Christmas. First of all, singing. Singing happens all year. There's
Yeah, we sing every year. That's
there's deck
weird.
there's decking of halls. My favorite things is sometimes grouped among Christmas carols because there's effectively a naughty list, dog bites, bee stings, to go along with the song's nice list, kitten whiskers and mittens. No, you're
Stretch,
you're stretching
stretch.
you're stretching so much that Elastigirl is jealous. But
Well, I love the movie. It's one of the best musicals ever made, but I have never associated it with a Christmas movie.
yeah, Julie Andrews is awesome in that. Christopher Plummer is awesome in that. I remember covering it for the AFI project and just falling in love with it all over again. But not a Christmas movie. That's the one I definitely am a hard no on. Well, next up, and this seems a bit unconventional, but I am definitely willing to side with it is indeed a Christmas movie. The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
I second that vote because Santa Claus is in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and he helps break the spell that's in Narnia, where it was originally always winter, never Christmas. But then when the kids show up in Narnia and break the witch's curse, Santa Claus shows up and gives them their battle weapons.
Exactly, and I remember covering this past Easter with Rachel from Rachel's Reviews, and I am honestly really shocked at how good that The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was. Considering that C.S. Lewis is probably one of the most famous Christians of all time, I was worried that it was going to be like toned down or something like that. But no, they actually treated it with a lot of respect. And I would consider it a more family friendly version of Lord of the Rings, if I'm not stretching too much.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I got into the Narnia films before I ever watched the Lord of the Rings films, and it was like a good introduction point to that genre.
Yeah, I agree. Well, next up, and this is another one I've never seen, but I've seen it on a ton of Christmas movie lists, is Trading Places, starring Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, I've never seen this one either. I just know it by name and who's in it. I think John Landis, I think, directed that one, if I'm not mistaken. He's a great director. I love The Blues Brothers. It's one of my favorite comedies of all time. I guess it's one I need to put on my list because of the talent. And Eddie Murphy was in his prime in the 80s, especially if you've seen Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah, and also check out his stand-up specials, Raw and Delirious. I mean, I could pretty much recite Delirious bit by bit, like the ice cream bit. That's a classic, and talking about his Aunt Bunny falling down the steps. I'm just laughing inside just thinking about it.
I
Well,
love Eddie Murphy.
next up, and this might be a pretty controversial one, Eyes Wide Shut. Now, I've actually now seen this one, and I can kind of see where they're coming from. I remember this reviewer I follow, this critic I follow named Alonso Duralde, who called this movie a Christmas movie for grown-ups, and I tend to agree with him. There is definitely a lot of Christmas stuff around, but I don't know. Is this a bit of a stretch?
I haven't seen the movie yet, so I can't comment on uh, whether it is or not. I think I've seen images, and it looks like there's like Christmas trees in the background and other things. I don't know how it's integrated into the plot though.
When I was doing research for my video on it, I believe I remember reading that the Christmas stuff was meant to symbolize that Tom Cruise's character was in some kind of heaven and was being tempted by the demons of hell. It's a bit of a weird flex, but I don't know. Calling this a Christmas movie is a bit out there for me.
All those symbolisms, that's Stanley Kubrick for you. He wants to confuse you as much as possible and have you come up with your own weird theories.
Yeah, agreed. Well, next up, and I don't know where you're gonna fall on this one, Jacob, but I just am not sure. Rocky Four.
Yeah, there's some Christmas scenes in Rocky Four. There's like the infamous scene where Paulie gets like his '80s robot as his Christmas present, which is so random.
You know,
But
I'm
other than that, that's like the only real Christmassy thing in the movie. The rest is like the big cheesy epic match between Rocky and Drago.
Drago.
He does. He does.
You know, I'm gonna be covering all the Rocky movies in the lead up to Creed 3, and I have not seen Rocky 4 in a minute, so I don't know how I'm going to react to it.
It's easily the goofiest film in the Rocky franchise, which makes it all the more impressive that Creed 2 took the goofiest aspects of that movie and make you take it seriously and even make you care about the Drago character and his family just as much as Creed.
Yeah. Well, next up is Reindeer Games. I have never seen this one, but it stars Ben Affleck as a group of robbers who dress up as Santa Claus and rob a casino. So I've never seen this one, but I'm not sure how I'm feeling about Santa Claus's robbing casinos.
Hmm. Well, I don't think that's any worse than Santa Claus axe murdering people due to childhood trauma and Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Oh, jeez.
but but I haven't seen Reindeer Games. I have seen the Nostalgia Critic review of Reindeer Games, and it looked really bonkers. The more the story unfolds, but I haven't seen the actual movie, so I can't really. Oh, my camera messed up. I can't really comment on that. I'm
well,
good.
well, next up is, and we touched on this briefly, but the original Lethal Weapon. And again, I have not seen this, but Jacob, I believe you have seen this one.
Yes, I have seen Lethal Weapon. It is an awesome buddy comedy. Probably one of the top tier buddy comedies there is. Mel Gibson and Danny Glover are an awesome duo as Riggs and Murtaugh. Shane Black wrote the screenplay, directed by Richard Donner. There's a lot of Christmas elements in this movie. I mean, the movie even opens with Jingle Bell Rock in the background. It's very unconventional because, like I said, it's a buddy cop story. There's some dark elements in there. Like the movie honestly opens with like a drug overdose and a suicide. After you hear the Christmas song in the background, but once the two characters are paired, it's really funny to watch. And even with the darker elements in there, like Mel Gibson's character Riggs, who's like a maniac character who's been unstable after the death of his wife, but Richard Donner and Shane Black somehow make it to where the serious drama and the comedy just blend so well, and it's a very entertaining '80s film through and through.
Which Lethal Weapon is it where the diplomat is like diplomatic immunity, and then Danny Glover shoots him, and he's like has just been revoked.
Uh,
Do you know which
that's
one that?
the sec- that's the second one.
Okay, because I remember seeing that clip on a video called "The 100 Best One-Liners After the Kill," and that was the first one. That was the first clip.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good movie too. I enjoy all four Lethal Weapon films, but the first one I'd say is the best.
Well, to wrap things up, number 25, Invasion USA, starring Chuck Norris. And Chuck Norris battles Latin American guerrillas attacking Christmas shoppers in Invasion USA, a movie that could not be set anywhere else but the state of Florida.
I have what?
Yes,
I've
it
never heard of this movie.
yes, it's literally a war on Christmas. And because the filmmakers were allowed to shoot at a mall that was being rebuilt, they really do blow the thing to bits. Also blown to bits, the terrorist leader, who Norris kills with a handheld rocket launcher. Merry Christmas. That sounds very on brand for Chuck Norris.
I gotta watch this movie now. It sounds ridiculously awesome.
I don't. I remember reading this. I'm looking this up to see if it's on streaming anywhere. Invasion USA streaming. It is on Tubi and Pluto TV.
All right, I'll have to. I'm
That's
gonna
our
watch
next
that
watch party
now. Yes, that's gonna be the next one.
because I curiosity is gonna kill the cat. On but that was
Uh,
a that was
every time I always think of the Nostalgia Critic when them those older videos. He's like, these characters are not safe unless there's Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris.
I remember. I remember that was a neat one. But that was a fun article to read. Is there Is there a Christmas movie that you all watch that maybe is in the gray zone of maybe it is, maybe it isn't? Leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to read what you have to say. And that's all for this week's episode. Jacob, thank you so much. It is a privilege as always. I believe, if my schedule is right, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I will be going on your channel this week to talk about the Christmas Chronicles.
Yeah, well, I got that set up for this Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, talking about the Christmas Chronicles on a live stream starring Kurt Russell as Santa Claus. That's one of the videos coming to my channel this week. I also got a live stream with Jason the Old Millennial Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, where we'll be ranking our top 10 Christmas specials. And I soon for my 31 Days of Christmas series. We're recording this on a Monday night, my birthday. I just dropped my review of the Rankin Bass special Nestor, the long-eared Christmas donkey. And then I got another video that's coming this week of doing a series of Disney Christmas shorts and specials, including The Night Before Christmas Silly Symphony, the small one, which was directed by Don Bluth, and the recent Mickey Saves Christmas stop motion Christmas special that just recently dropped on Disney Plus. And I have other videos coming to the channel as well. I'll also be covering Christmas with the Cranks on my channel this week with my good friend Dave from Interpreting the Stars. Pray for me on that one. That one's one where it's not aged well from when I saw it as a kid.
Christmas with the Cranks is hard work. That's all I will say. You want to talk about people that just completely lose their mind over a couple that just simply want to go on a cruise for Christmas instead of having the traditional Christmas. I mean, it's just insane stuff. But I will be on the lookout for that, and I am very much looking forward to talking about the Christmas Chronicles with you over on your channel. That's this coming Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern over on Jacob's channel, which will be linked in the description of the video. Go give him a subscribe. And as for this channel, Chris Mania will be continuing on. We're recording this on a Monday, which means my review for the Ed Asner film The Gathering dropped earlier today, and I also started up the Shyamalan Project, where I'll be reviewing every M. Night Shyamalan movie I've yet to cover in honor of Knock at the Cabin. Jacob is going to be joining me to talk about The Village, and I'm going to be having a special guest come on to review / rant over The Last Airbender. I'm looking forward to / dreading all of that, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Over the next few days, I'll be dropping reviews for The Christmas Star, which also stars Ed Asner. Die Hard, we all know what that is, and I'll be having a special guest on for that. And along with Ernest Saves Christmas, which I am going to be rewatching for the first time in a very long time, and Home Alone 2, we all know what that is. So that's going to be coming up for the rest of this week. And thank you all so much for watching. That's for Jacob Martin. My name is Ryan Cam. We will see you in the next one. Take care.